What's up guys? Australian Bushcraft Warrior here. So it's about 3:30 and I'm starting on fire prep. To someone who doesn't really know a lot about fire prep or hasn't done a lot of friction fire, the hotter it is, the easier it is basically. And when you are doing friction fire in the shade, it is that much harder than doing it in the sunlight. So I hope to get a fire going using the bow drill method with the afternoon sun beaming directly down onto what I'm doing to make it easier. So that's why at this particular point of the day I'm starting on my fire prep. I've got I've got a piece of xantharia which I've cut into the drill and I've used before in another set. So that's that. I've got a piece of Moreton Bay fig tree which I've done hand drill before. So I'll process this down so it's suitable for bow drill, the base plate. I've got a pretty gnarly looking stick from a gum tree. It's got a nice bow in it. It's not the prettiest thing, but should work. And then I've got a bit of green she oak casuarina, which I'll process down to a handhold. The reason why I'm going with green is if the spindle runs on a dead piece of wood up here, it starts to smoke and it adds a lot of friction, slows things down. If you use a green, something that's made from green wood for your handhold, the moisture in the timber acts as lubricant and makes everything a lot easier. I have always found that the hardest part of this set to make is the handhold. I don't know why, but it just seems to be the hardest to make. But yeah, let's give it a crack. Oh, I've never really used this saw before. It's a, what is it? Some random saw from Bunnings. Man, this thing just eats. Effortless. So I've cut that. The reason I didn't cut it here, and I've cut it here, it's going to be a lot easier to loop on the rope there for the string, I hope. done my fire prep. I've got leaves, really small twigs, bigger twigs, some sticks. All I need now is a bird's nest. Now, I just wanted to re-go over how important proper fire prep is. So, you know, whether you're doing hand drill, bow drill, plow method, fire thong, whatever you're doing, same applies. You are going to want all of your material as dry as possible, especially your bird's nest. That's bone dry. Everything's bone dry here at the moment. Just need to know where to look. Particularly with primitive fire making, if you are even just a little bit lazy, it will kick your ass. So just, you know, when you're prepping for fire, particularly primitive style, you need to really just make sure your prep is just, you got to be on top of it. That includes the set that you're using to make fire. So let's give it a crack, see how we go. And just on another note, the sun is going to be going down in about 20-25 minutes. It's going to be getting behind that hill. So it'll be roughly about 10 degrees cooler in the shade, and the moisture will start falling from the sky. So, and that really does make a massive difference on trying to do friction fire. So the hotter it is, the drier things are, and if you can do it in the sun and have sunlight on what you're doing, the better. All right, the bow drill consists of one handhold taken from a green piece of she oak, Casuarina. The base plate is taken from a Moreton Bay fig tree. And as you can see, I've cut in 2 divots, and it's quite thin. So if I only cut 1 divot and I start bow drilling through that, I might bow drill through the whole thing before I get an ember. So I'll alternate between the two to warm the setup, and then hopefully get an ember from this one. And then if I don't, I've already got a notch cut so that I can give it a second attempt. So that's that. 1 drill with the pointed end that goes on the hand drill. And this end is going to be creating the coal. This is Xanthorrhoea stem. Excellent material for fire lighting, primitive fire. And 1 gum tree piece of stick. This has got to be like the gnarliest piece of stick I've ever used for a bow, but I'm going to give it a go. So here we go. Bow drill friction fire, let's go. Starting off nice and gently, using the entire length of the bow string. Alright, starting to get a little bit of smoke. Increase the speed. I'm not increasing the pressure, I'm just increasing the speed. Alright. So I've just stopped here because although I'm getting smoke, I can just tell something's wrong with the set. It needs a little bit of adjusting before I commit to an ember. Because if you're trying to just force the ember, even though the bow drill isn't working properly, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, and it's just, I've learnt, just stop and then reassess. And then I've already got some dust there, which will add to the coal, so that's good. So I'm wrapping the cord around twice, because this Xanthorrhea stem has got like a sort of like a polished finish to it, which makes it slippery. So if I only wrap around it once, it tends to slip. So that's why I'm going around twice. And then it even still slips sometimes, so but twice is better than once. All right, going for ember. So a little tip. So I've got the coal. So a little tip is don't rush the ember. It needs a minute or two to sort of burn and sort of come together like the end of a cigarette, like the coal, yeah. Don't get too excited. Just because you've got a coal doesn't mean you have fire. So, particularly if things are damp and wet and it's a pretty shitty environment to get a fire going anyway, when you put your set down, this is the end that's drilling into the base plate. So be careful where you put your kit. Like, don't just be like, oh, I've got a coal, and then drop this stuff down onto the cold floor or wet floor. So, like that, so it's like, that is up off the ground. And if this should fail, then I've got exactly the same kit that I had, not worse off. So just keep that in mind. Now let's give this one a crack. Now, I haven't used dry dead grass in a long time because I prefer to use other stuff, but we'll see how this goes. Scooping up the rest of the dust, putting it in there. Let's give this a whirl. It's not looking good. Oh, there we go. Now, when so look, so I've just gotten that fire going, and that sun is literally about to go down in about 5 minutes. So if I had been 5 minutes later, I'd be doing this in the shade. And you know, usually the way it goes, when it starts getting tough, it starts getting even tougher and later and colder and damper and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, just generally speaking, you know, like when you're out just doing your thing, you know, get a fire going like well before dark, and even more, you know, particularly in a survival situation, or, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a survival situation, but just in a situation where like you don't want to be cold, you know, yeah, just get it going well before dark, and you'll be better off in basically every regard. So yeah, nice and roaring there, and I've got it quite close to my shelter, so I can sit basically in the doorway, and yeah, so like stay warm, cook food. What else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, like before, when I right before I got the fire going, when I said, oh, this isn't looking good, all the dry grass that I got off the ground. So it's been raining a bit, you know, over the last few weeks. It hasn't been raining for, I don't know, like maybe 4 or 5 days now, maybe a little longer. It's been pretty sunny every day, which has kind of dried things out a bit, which is good. But I could tell that from the grass, the amount of smoke that was coming out with no flame, like there was still moisture locked into the grass. So that's why I said, oh, it's not looking good, because it was just, you know, you can tell when you've got a bird's nest that has so much moisture in it and it doesn't want to like burst into flames. It gets really, 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 really smoky. Or maybe that's just because it's grass. But I think there's some truth to what I'm saying. And also, like this particular grass that I'm using, it doesn't really want to hold together. It kind of falls apart, and that's why I put it down on the ground. I put it down on the ground for two reasons. A, it was getting hot, and B, it's sort of like, it's kind of crumbly. It just falls apart. So put it down on the ground, give it more oxygen, see if it'll burst up. So yeah, it's not the best material, I suppose, grass, or this particular grass. But yeah, still got a fire going nonetheless. So yeah, it's gonna be warm tonight. Hey, look at that. Basically, just in this conversation that we've had, the sun is basically starting to pop behind those trees, and it is that much cooler. So I made the right decision. Peace. Bye-bye. Hey, buddy. Hey.